The snow had been falling since early morning, soft and silent, blanketing our small town in a thick layer of white that muffled every sound except the occasional crunch of boots on the sidewalk and the distant jingle of bells from the church tower. I remember standing at the frosted window of our old Victorian house, my breath creating small circles of fog on the cold glass, watching the flakes drift down like tiny feathers from an invisible pillow fight happening somewhere in the heavens. The air inside smelled of cinnamon and pine, of butter melting in hot pans and the sharp, clean scent of fresh evergreen boughs that my father had draped along the mantelpiece that very morning. I was 8 years old that Christmas Eve, young enough to still believe in magic but old enough to sense when the adults around me were keeping secrets. And they were definitely keeping secrets. I could feel it in the way my mother kept glancing at the grandfather clock in the hallway, her hands twisting the corner of her apron as if she were wringing out some invisible worry. I could see it in how my father kept stepping out onto the front porch, letting in blasts of frigid air as he scanned the empty street, his eyes searching for something or someone who had not yet arrived. My grandmother sat in her favorite armchair by the fireplace, her knitting needles clicking together in a steady rhythm that usually soothed me but today only added to the strange tension filling our home. The fire crackled and popped, sending occasional sparks up the chimney, and the warmth radiating from the hearth made my cheeks flush pink. I could feel the heat on my skin, that delicious contrast between the cold window glass against my forehead and the toasty glow from the flames behind me. Outside, the world had transformed into something from a storybook. The street lamps were just beginning to flicker on, casting pools of golden light that made the falling snow look like glitter tumbling through the air. Our neighbors' houses glowed with warm light from their windows, and I could see the silhouettes of Christmas trees decorated with ornaments and tinsel. The Hendersons next door had strung colored lights along their roofline, and they blinked on and off in a pattern that seemed almost hypnotic as I watched them through the swirling snow. My younger sister Emma sat on the floor near the Christmas tree, carefully arranging and rearranging the nativity scene that had belonged to our great-grandmother. She was only 5, still at that age where patience was a foreign concept and waiting for Christmas morning felt like waiting for the end of time itself. She hummed to herself, some tuneless melody that she made up as she went along, moving the tiny ceramic figures of shepherds and wise men across the cotton batting that served as snow in the miniature scene. The tree itself was magnificent, a 7-foot-tall Douglas fir that filled the corner of our living room and reached almost to the ceiling. We had decorated it together as a family just 3 days earlier, stringing popcorn and cranberries, hanging the delicate glass ornaments that had been passed down through generations, each one wrapped carefully in tissue paper and stored in the attic for 11 months of every year. The angel on top had belonged to my great-great-grandmother, her porcelain face serene and beautiful, her golden wings catching the light from the fire and seeming to glow with their own inner radiance. The scent of my mother's cooking drifted from the kitchen, rich and complex, layers of aroma that made my stomach rumble despite the cookies I had sneaked earlier. She was preparing our traditional Christmas Eve dinner, the same meal her mother had made and her mother before that, recipes handed down and perfected over decades. I could smell the roasting turkey, its skin crisping and browning in the oven, the savory scent mixing with the sweetness of glazed carrots and the earthy richness of her famous chestnut stuffing. There was apple pie cooling on the counter, I knew, because I had watched her pull it from the oven an hour ago, the lattice crust golden and perfect, steam rising from the slits between the woven strips of dough. But despite all this warmth and comfort, despite the beauty of the snow on the tree and the promise of presents waiting to be opened in the morning, something felt different this year. There was an electricity in the air, a sense of anticipation that went beyond the normal excitement of Christmas Eve. My parents kept exchanging glances, those silent conversations that adults have with just their eyes, and my grandmother's knitting needles seemed to click faster and faster as the evening wore on. Finally, as the grandfather clock chimed 6 times, its deep brass tones reverberating through the house, my father stood up from where he had been pretending to read the newspaper. He folded it carefully, set it on the side table, and cleared his throat in that particular way he had when he was about to say something important. "Sarah, Emma," he said, his voice gentle but serious, "come sit with your mother and me. There is something we need to tell you, something important about our family and about this very special night." Emma abandoned her nativity scene immediately, scrambling to her feet and climbing onto the sofa between our parents. I moved more slowly, reluctantly leaving my post at the window, my heart beating a little faster. Were we in trouble? Had something bad happened? But no, my mother was smiling, and my grandmother had set down her knitting and was watching us with eyes that sparkled with something that looked almost like mischief. I settled into the armchair across from the sofa, tucking my legs underneath me, and waited. The fire crackled. The clock ticked. Outside, the snow continued its silent descent, and somewhere in the distance, I could hear carolers singing, their voices faint but clear in the cold night air. Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright. My father reached over and took my mother's hand, and I noticed for the first time that she was trembling slightly, though whether from cold or emotion I could not tell. He looked at me, then at Emma, then back at me, and when he spoke, his voice was thick with feeling. "What I am about to tell you has been passed down in our family for more generations than we can count," he began. "It is a secret that is shared only on Christmas Eve, only when the children are old enough to understand and keep it safe in their hearts. My father told me when I was about your age, Sarah, and his father told him, and so on back through time to a night very much like this one, many, many years ago." Emma's eyes were wide, and she had stopped fidgeting, which was remarkable for her. I felt a shiver run down my spine that had nothing to do with the cold. My grandmother leaned forward in her chair, and I could see tears glistening in her eyes, though she was smiling. "Our family," my mother said, taking over the story, "has a very special gift. It is not something we asked for, and it is not something we can explain with science or logic. But it is real as the snow falling outside, as real as the love we have for each other." She paused, and in that pause, I heard the house settling around us, the old wood creaking and sighing as it always did on cold nights. I heard the wind picking up outside, rattling the windows gently in their frames. I heard my own breathing, shallow and quick with anticipation. On Christmas Eve, my father continued, at the stroke of midnight, something magical happens to our family. For 1 hour, just one precious hour, we can see and speak with those we have loved and lost. Our ancestors, our family members who have passed on, they come back to us. Not as ghosts, not as spirits in the frightening sense, but as themselves, whole and real and full of love. They come to share Christmas with us, to remind us that love never truly dies, that family bonds stretch beyond the boundaries of life and death. I stared at him, my mind struggling to process what he was saying. Emma looked confused, her little face scrunched up in concentration as she tried to understand. "You mean," I said slowly, my voice barely above a whisper, "you mean like Grandpa Thomas? He died before I was born." My grandmother made a small sound, something between a laugh and a sob, and nodded. "Yes, sweetheart," she said. "Like my Thomas. Like my parents and grandparents. Like all those who came before us and loved us and helped make us who we are." "But how?" I asked. "How is that possible?" My father shook his head. "We do not know how," he said. "We only know that it is. Some say it is because our family has always believed so strongly in the power of love and connection. Some say it is a gift given to us long ago by someone or something we can no longer remember. But the why and the how do not matter as much as the what. What matters is that tonight, at midnight, they will come. And you will meet people you have only heard about in stories. You will meet your grandfather, Sarah. You will meet your great-grandparents, Emma. And you will understand, in a way that words can never fully capture, what it means to be part of this family. The room fell silent except for the crackling fire and the ticking clock. I felt as if the world had tilted slightly on its axis, as if everything I thought I knew had just been gently rearranged. Part of me wanted to laugh, to say this was impossible, that they were playing some elaborate joke. But I could see the truth in their faces, the absolute sincerity in their eyes. They believed this. They knew this. And somehow, deep in my heart, I believed it too. Are they scary? Emma asked in a small voice, and my mother immediately pulled her close, kissing the top of her head. No, my darling, not at all, she said. They are filled with love and joy. They come to celebrate with us, to see how we have grown, to share in our happiness. It is the most beautiful thing you will ever experience. My grandmother stood up slowly, her joints creaking almost as much as the floorboards, and walked over to the mantelpiece. She picked up an old photograph in a silver frame, one that had always sat there but that I had never paid much attention to. She brought it over and showed it to us. It was a picture of a young man in a military uniform, handsome and smiling, with eyes that crinkled at the corners just like my father's did. This is your grandfather, she said, her voice soft and full of longing. Thomas. He died in the war, years before you were born, Sarah. But every Christmas Eve, at midnight, he comes home to me. For 1 hour, I get to hold his hand again, to hear his laugh, to tell him about our children and grandchildren. For 1 hour, I am young again, and he is here, and the world is whole. Tears were streaming down her face now, but she was smiling, and I realized that these were not tears of sadness but of joy, of anticipation. In just a few hours, she would see the love of her life again. In just a few hours, the impossible would become possible. The hours that followed were the longest of my young life. We ate dinner, though I barely tasted the food, my mind spinning with questions and wonder and a strange mixture of excitement and nervousness. My mother had set extra places at the table, I noticed, empty chairs with plates and silverware waiting for guests who had not yet arrived. At the time, I had thought it was odd, but now I understood. She was preparing for midnight, for the moment when those empty chairs would no longer be empty. After dinner, we cleaned up together, washing dishes and putting away leftovers, moving through the familiar rituals of the evening in a kind of dreamlike state. Emma kept asking questions, an endless stream of them, until finally my father scooped her up and carried her to the living room, settling her on the sofa with a blanket and her favorite stuffed rabbit. We need to stay awake until midnight, he explained. It is important that we are all here, all together, when they arrive. Can you do that, little one? Can you stay awake for just a few more hours? Emma nodded solemnly, though I could see her eyelids already beginning to droop. My mother made hot chocolate for all of us, rich and thick and topped with tiny marshmallows that melted into sweet, sticky pools on the surface. The warmth of the mug felt good in my hands, and the chocolate tasted like comfort and tradition, like every Christmas I could remember rolled into one perfect cup. My grandmother began to tell stories, tales of Christmases past, of her childhood in a small farmhouse where they had so little money that gifts were often handmade or practical, but where love had been abundant and free. She told us about the year the barn roof collapsed under the weight of snow, and how the whole community had come together to rebuild it in time for spring. She told us about her first Christmas with Grandpa Thomas, how he had proposed to her on Christmas Eve under a sky full of stars, slipping a simple gold band onto her finger and promising to love her for all eternity. And he has kept that promise, she said, her voice breaking slightly. Even death could not break it. Every year, he comes back, and every year, I fall in love with him all over again.
My father told stories too, about his childhood, about the first time he had experienced the midnight visitation and how terrified and amazed he had been.
He had been 9 years old, he said, and his own grandfather had appeared, a man he had never met in life but who had hugged him and told him how proud he was of the boy his grandson had become. It changed everything for me, my father said. It made me understand that we are never truly alone, that we are part of something so much bigger than ourselves. It taught me to live with love and purpose, because I knew that one day, I too would return on Christmas Eve to visit my own grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and I wanted to be someone they would be proud to meet. The clock ticked on.
9 o'clock. 10 o'clock. 11 o'clock.
The snow had stopped falling, and the night outside was clear and cold, the sky full of stars that seemed to shine with unusual brightness. The moon was nearly full, casting silver light across the white landscape, making everything look ethereal and magical. Emma had fallen asleep despite her best efforts, curled up on the sofa with her head in my mother's lap. My mother stroked her hair gently, humming softly, and I could see the love in her face, the tenderness that mothers have for their sleeping children. My father had added more wood to the fire, and it burned bright and hot, filling the room with dancing light and deep shadows. As 11:30 approached, I felt my heart begin to race. My palms were sweaty, and I wiped them on my pajamas, suddenly very aware of every sound, every sensation.
The house seemed to be holding its breath, waiting.
My grandmother had stopped talking and sat very still in her chair, her eyes closed, her lips moving in what might have been a prayer or simply a conversation with someone only she could hear.
At 11:45, my father gently woke Emma.
She stirred and whimpered, but when he reminded her what was about to happen, her eyes flew open and all traces of sleep vanished from her face. We all stood up, moving closer together, forming a small circle in front of the fireplace. My mother took my hand on one side, and my grandmother took it on the other. We were connected, linked, a chain of love and blood and shared history. The grandfather clock began to chime midnight, each deep tone reverberating through the house and through my very bones.
1, 2, 3.
I counted silently along with it, my breath caught in my throat.
4, 5,
6. The air in the room seemed to shimmer, to thicken somehow, as if reality itself were becoming more concentrated.
7, 8, 9.
I could feel a tingling sensation spreading through my body, starting at my fingertips where they touched my mother and grandmother and radiating outward.
10, 11, 12.
The final chime faded into silence, and for a moment, nothing happened. The room was utterly still, so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. And then, slowly, gradually, the air began to glow. It was not a bright light, not harsh or blinding, but a soft, warm radiance that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. It was the color of candlelight, of sunrise, of love made visible.
And they came.
They appeared not all at once but one by one, materializing out of the golden light like figures emerging from a mist. They were solid and real, not transparent or ghostly, but fully present, fully themselves. I could see the details of their faces, the texture of their clothing, the expressions of joy and love that lit them from within. The first to appear was a tall man with kind eyes and a gentle smile, wearing an old-fashioned military uniform. My grandmother made a sound that was half laugh, half sob, and released my hand to rush forward. "Thomas," she cried, and he caught her in his arms, lifting her off her feet and spinning her around as if she weighed nothing at all, as if they were young again and the years had never passed. "My darling," he said, his voice deep and warm and full of emotion.
"My beautiful darling. How I have missed you."
"I have missed you too," she whispered against his chest.
Every day. Every moment. More figures appeared. An elderly couple, holding hands, their faces wrinkled and wise and radiating kindness. A young woman with flowers in her hair and a laugh like music. A man with a thick beard and strong hands that looked like they had known hard work and honest labor. A little boy, no more than 3 or 4, who ran immediately to my father and was scooped up into a fierce hug. My brother, my father said, his voice choked with tears. My little brother who died so young. Oh, how you have grown in that other place. How beautiful you are. The room filled with people, with family, with love. They embraced us, spoke to us, touched our faces with hands that were warm and solid and real. An older woman with silver hair and eyes like my mother's came to me, cupping my face in her palms and looking at me with such intensity that I felt seen in a way I had never experienced before. Sarah, she said, and somehow I knew this was my great-grandmother, the one whose recipes my mother still used, whose garden had once been famous throughout the county. You have her eyes. My mother's eyes. The eyes of all the women in our line. Strong eyes. Brave eyes. Eyes that see the truth and do not look away. I felt tears streaming down my face, but I was not sad. I was overwhelmed, filled to bursting with a feeling I could not name, something bigger than happiness, deeper than joy. It was connection. It was belonging. It was the absolute certainty that I was part of something eternal and unbreakable. Emma was being passed from person to person, each one kissing her cheeks and exclaiming over how beautiful she was, how much she looked like this aunt or that cousin. She giggled and squirmed and soaked up the attention like a flower soaking up sunshine. The hour that followed was the most extraordinary of my life. We talked and laughed and cried together. They told us stories of their lives, of times and places we had only read about in history books. They asked about our lives, about school and friends and dreams for the future. They gave advice, gentle and wise, about how to live well and love deeply. They shared jokes and sang songs, their voices blending together in harmonies that seemed to resonate not just in the air but in my very soul. My grandfather Thomas sat with my grandmother on the sofa, his arm around her shoulders, and they looked at each other with such love that it made my heart ache. My father's little brother, who would have been his uncle if he had lived, played on the floor with Emma, building towers out of blocks and knocking them down with exaggerated crashes that made her shriek with laughter. A woman who introduced herself as my great-great-great-grandmother, a name so long and complicated that I immediately forgot it, sat beside me and held my hand. She told me about crossing the ocean in a ship, about leaving everything she knew to come to a new land, about the fear and hope that had warred in her heart during that long journey. She told me about building a life from nothing, about the strength it took to survive and thrive in a place that was strange and often hostile. But we did it, she said, squeezing my hand. We did it because we had love. We had each other. And that is the secret, little one. That is the only secret that matters. Love is stronger than death, stronger than time, stronger than any hardship or sorrow. Love is what brings us back here, year after year. Love is what makes us eternal. I wanted to ask her so many questions, wanted to know everything about her life and her journey and how she had found the courage to do such brave things. But even as I opened my mouth to speak, I felt a change in the air. The golden light that had filled the room began to dim, just slightly, and I saw my grandfather Thomas look at the clock on the mantel. "It is almost time," he said softly, and a hush fell over the room. All the laughter and conversation stopped, and everyone turned to look at each other with expressions of bittersweet longing. "Already?" my grandmother whispered, and he nodded, pulling her closer. "Already, my love. But we will see each other again. We always do.
1 year from tonight, I will be here, and you will be here, and we will have another hour together. 1 year feels like forever, she said, and he smiled, touching her face with infinite tenderness. And yet it passes in the blink of an eye, he replied.
Live well, my darling. Love our family.
Take care of yourself.
And know that I am always with you, even when you cannot see me. Especially then.
They began to say their goodbyes, each one taking time to embrace us, to whisper final words of love and encouragement.
My great-grandmother kissed my forehead and told me to be brave.
The little boy hugged Emma and made her promise to be good. My great-great-great-grandmother held both my hands in hers and looked into my eyes.
Remember, she said. Remember that you are never alone.
Remember that you come from a long line of strong, loving people who faced their fears and chose hope.
Remember that love never dies.
And when you are old, when you have lived your life and crossed over to where we are, you too will return on Christmas Eve to visit those you love.
This is our gift. This is our legacy. This is who we are.
The light grew dimmer still, and one by one, they began to fade. Not disappearing suddenly, but gradually becoming less solid, less present, like mist evaporating in the morning sun. My grandmother clung to my grandfather until the very last moment, and even as he faded, I could see him smiling at her, his love for her shining in his eyes like a beacon.
And then they were gone.
The room was just our room again, lit only by the dying fire and the soft glow of the Christmas tree lights. The air felt thinner, emptier, and yet somehow fuller too, as if it had been saturated with love and that love still lingered, invisible but palpable. We stood in silence for a long moment, none of us quite ready to speak, to break the spell. My grandmother was crying openly now, tears streaming down her face, but she was also smiling. My mother and father held each other, and Emma had climbed into my father's arms, her head resting on his shoulder, her eyes wide and wondering. Finally, my grandmother spoke, her voice hoarse but steady.
That, she said, is our family's secret. That is our gift and our blessing.
And now you understand why we treasure Christmas Eve above all other nights, why we gather together and hold each other close. Because we know, we truly know, that love is eternal. That those we have lost are not really lost at all. That we are all connected, across time and space and even death itself, by bonds that cannot be broken. I felt different as I climbed the stairs to my bedroom that night, my legs heavy with exhaustion but my heart light with wonder. I felt as if I had been given a glimpse behind the curtain of reality, as if I had seen something that most people never get to see. I felt grateful and humbled and deeply, profoundly loved. Emma fell asleep almost immediately, but I lay awake for a long time, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of that magical hour in my mind. I thought about my great-great-great-grandmother crossing the ocean, about my grandfather Thomas coming home from war for 1 hour every year, about all the people who had come before me and loved me before I was even born. I thought about how I was part of their story, and they were part of mine, and how that story would continue long after I was gone. The next morning, Christmas morning, felt different too. The presents under the tree were wonderful, of course, and we opened them with excitement and gratitude. But they seemed less important somehow, less central to what Christmas meant. What mattered was being together, was the warmth of my mother's hug and the sound of my father's laugh and the way my grandmother's eyes sparkled when she looked at us. What mattered was the knowledge that we were part of something bigger, something eternal, something that transcended the material world and touched the divine. As the years passed, that Christmas Eve became a touchstone for me, a memory I returned to again and again when life got hard or confusing or painful. I thought about it when my grandmother died, when I was 16, and I found comfort in knowing that she was with Grandpa Thomas now, that they were together in that place beyond, and that one day, they would both return to visit me on Christmas Eve.
And they did.
The next Christmas, at midnight, they appeared together, holding hands, looking younger and happier than I had ever seen them. My grandmother hugged me and told me how proud she was of the young woman I was becoming.
Grandpa Thomas ruffled my hair and called me kiddo and made me laugh with his terrible jokes.
And I understood, in a way I had not fully grasped before, that death was not an ending but a transformation, not a wall but a door. I grew up, as children do. I went to college, fell in love, got married, had children of my own. And every Christmas Eve, no matter where I was or what was happening in my life, I made sure to be home at midnight. Sometimes it was difficult. Sometimes it meant traveling long distances or rearranging plans or disappointing friends who wanted me at their parties.
But I never missed it. I could not miss it.
It was too important, too precious, too central to who I was. When my children were old enough, I told them the secret, just as my parents had told me. I watched their faces as they struggled to believe, to understand, to accept this impossible truth. And then I watched their wonder and joy when midnight came and the golden light filled the room and their great-grandparents and great-great-grandparents appeared, solid and real and full of love. My daughter cried when she met my grandmother, the woman she had been named after but had never known in life. My son sat on Grandpa Thomas's lap and listened, enraptured, to stories of flying planes in the war and coming home to the woman he loved. And I stood back and watched, my heart so full it felt like it might burst, knowing that I was passing on the gift, the legacy, the secret that had sustained our family for generations. There were hard years, of course. The year my father died, I was not sure I could bear to see him appear at midnight, to have only 1 hour with him when I wanted a lifetime. But when he came, when he hugged me and told me he was proud of me and that everything was going to be okay, I found a peace I had not known was possible. He was not gone. He was just in a different place, and we would see each other every Christmas Eve for as long as I lived, and then beyond. The year my mother died, she appeared with my father, and they looked so happy together, so complete, that I could not be sad. I missed her every day, missed her voice and her laugh and her wisdom, but I knew she was not suffering, not lonely, not lost. She was with the people she loved, and she would come back to me every year, and that was enough. It had to be enough. Emma, my sister, moved away after college, settling on the other coast, building a life far from the town where we had grown up.
But every Christmas Eve, she came home.
She brought her husband, and later her children, and we all gathered in the old house, which I had inherited when my grandmother died, and we waited for midnight. The house was older now, creakier, the paint peeling in places and the roof in need of repair, but it was still home. It was still the place where magic happened, where the veil between worlds grew thin, where love proved itself stronger than death. My children grew up and had children of their own, and the circle grew wider. More people crowded into the living room on Christmas Eve, more voices joined in the carols, more hands helped prepare the traditional dinner. And at midnight, when the golden light came and our ancestors appeared, there were more of them too. My parents, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, aunts and uncles and cousins who had passed on, all coming back for one precious hour to be with us, to celebrate, to remind us of who we were and where we came from. I am old now, older than my grandmother was that first Christmas Eve when she told me this secret. My hair is white, my hands are gnarled with arthritis, my body aches in ways I never imagined when I was young. But my heart is still strong, still full of love and hope and gratitude. I have lived a good life, a full life, a life rich with love and connection and meaning. And I know that when my time comes, when I cross over to that other place, I will not be afraid. I will be going home, going to be with all those I have loved and lost, and I will wait there until Christmas Eve comes around again, and then I will return. I will return to see my children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. I will return to hold them and tell them I love them and remind them that they are never alone. I will return to pass on the stories and the wisdom and the love that have been passed down through our family for generations beyond counting. And they will see me, solid and real and full of joy, and they will know, as I know, as my grandmother knew, as all our ancestors knew, that love is eternal. This is our secret. This is our gift. This is what makes us who we are. Tonight is Christmas Eve, and I am sitting in the old house, in the same living room where I first learned the secret so many years ago. The fire is crackling in the fireplace, the tree is decorated with ornaments that span generations, and the air smells of cinnamon and pine and all the good things that mean Christmas. My family is gathered around me, children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, their faces glowing in the firelight, their voices filling the house with warmth and life. The youngest ones, the ones who are learning the secret for the first time tonight, are wide-eyed with anticipation and nervousness. They keep asking questions, the same questions I asked all those years ago, the same questions every generation asks. How is it possible? Will it be scary? What will they look like? And we answer them with patience and love, telling them what we were told, passing on the knowledge and the comfort and the certainty that comes from having experienced this miracle year after year after year. The clock is ticking toward midnight. I can feel it in my bones, that familiar anticipation, that sense of the world holding its breath. My daughter is holding my hand on one side, my granddaughter on the other. We are connected, linked, a chain of love that stretches back through time and will stretch forward into the future long after I am gone. The grandfather clock, the same one that has marked midnight for generations, begins to chime. 1, 2, 3. My heart beats in time with it, steady and strong. 4, 5, 6. The air begins to shimmer, to glow with that familiar golden light. 7, 8, 9. I can feel tears on my cheeks, but I am smiling. 10, 11, 12. And they come. My mother and father, holding hands, looking just as I remember them. My grandmother and Grandpa Thomas, young and in love. My great-grandparents, my great-great-grandparents, all the way back through the generations. And there, at the back, I see new faces, people who have died since last Christmas, cousins and aunts and uncles who are experiencing this from the other side for the first time. They look amazed and joyful, and they rush forward to embrace us, to tell us they understand now, they finally understand. The room fills with love and laughter and the sound of voices blending together in joy. The children who were nervous are now giggling as their great-great-grandparents swing them around and tickle them and tell them how beautiful they are. The teenagers who thought they were too cool to be impressed are standing with tears streaming down their faces as they meet ancestors they have only heard about in stories. And the adults, we who have experienced this miracle many times before, we stand back and watch and feel our hearts swell with gratitude. My father comes to me, and I fall into his arms like I am 8 years old again. Daddy, I whisper, and he holds me tight and tells me he loves me, he is so proud of me, I have done so well. My mother kisses my cheeks and smooths my white hair and tells me I am beautiful, I have always been beautiful, inside and out. My grandmother hugs me and thanks me for taking care of the house, for keeping the tradition alive, for being the keeper of the secret for this generation. You have done well, she says. You have loved well. And that is all that matters. Grandpa Thomas winks at me and tells me one of his terrible jokes, and I laugh, really laugh, in a way I have not laughed in months. My great-great-great-grandmother, the one who crossed the ocean so long ago, takes my hand and tells me that my journey is almost complete, that I have lived a life worthy of our family name, that I will be welcomed with open arms when my time comes. I am not afraid, I tell her, and I realize it is true. I am not afraid of death, not afraid of what comes next. I have seen the proof, year after year, that love continues, that we continue, that there is something beyond this life that is beautiful and full of joy.
I am not afraid. I am ready. Whenever my time comes, I will be ready.
But not yet, she says, squeezing my hand.
You still have work to do here. You still have love to give and receive.
You still have grandchildren to watch grow up and great-grandchildren to meet. Your time will come, but not yet.
Not yet.
The hour passes too quickly, as it always does.
We talk and laugh and cry and hold each other.
We share stories and memories and dreams. We sing carols together, our voices blending with theirs in harmonies that seem to transcend the physical world.
We eat cookies and drink hot chocolate and simply be together, present and connected and whole. And then, as the clock approaches 1 in the morning, the light begins to dim.
The goodbyes begin, each one precious and painful and beautiful.
My father holds me one more time and tells me he will see me next year.
My mother kisses my forehead and tells me to take care of myself. My grandmother and Grandpa Thomas wave as they fade, their hands still clasped together, their love still shining bright. See you next year, Grandpa Thomas calls out, and I wave back, my vision blurred with tears.
See you next year, I call back. I love you. I love you all.
And then they are gone, and the room is just a room again, lit by the dying fire and the soft glow of the Christmas tree.
But we are not the same. We are never the same after midnight on Christmas Eve.
We are changed, renewed, reminded of what truly matters.
We are filled with love and hope and the absolute certainty that we are part of something eternal. The children are exhausted, their eyes drooping despite the excitement still thrumming through their bodies.
The adults begin to gather them up, preparing to head home or to the bedrooms upstairs. There are hugs and kisses and whispered words of love. There are promises to see each other tomorrow for Christmas dinner, to open presents and eat too much and simply enjoy being together. I sit in my grandmother's old chair by the fireplace, too tired to move, too full of emotion to sleep. My daughter brings me a blanket and tucks it around my legs, kissing the top of my head just as I used to kiss hers when she was small.
Are you okay, Mama? She asks, and I nod, smiling up at her.
I am more than okay, I tell her.
I am blessed. We are all blessed.
She smiles back, and I can see the tears in her eyes, the same tears that are in mine.
Yes, she says. Yes, we are.
She leaves me there, and I sit in the quiet house, listening to the fire crackle and the old wood settle and the wind whisper against the windows. I think about that first Christmas Eve, when I was 8 years old and learned the secret that would shape the rest of my life. I think about all the Christmas Eves since then, all the midnights when the impossible became possible, when love proved itself stronger than death.
I think about my grandmother, sitting in this very chair, waiting for midnight, waiting to see her Thomas again.
I understand her now in a way I could not when I was young. I understand the longing and the joy, the pain of separation and the ecstasy of reunion. I understand how she could bear the loss because she knew it was not permanent, because she knew that every Christmas Eve, for one precious hour, they would be together again.
And I think about the future, about the Christmas Eves to come.
I think about my children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren gathering in this house, or perhaps in a new house, continuing the tradition, keeping the secret, passing on the gift. I think about the day when I will be the one appearing in the golden light, when I will be the one returning to visit those I love. I think about holding my daughter's hand and telling her I am proud of her. I think about meeting great-great-grandchildren I will never know in life but will love with all my heart nonetheless.
This is our legacy. This is what we leave behind. Not money or property or possessions, but love. Love that transcends time and space and death itself. Love that brings us back, year after year, to remind those we leave behind that they are not alone, that we are still with them, that we will always be with them. The fire has burned down to embers now, glowing red and orange in the darkness. The Christmas tree lights have been turned off, and the house is dark except for the moonlight streaming through the windows, painting everything in shades of silver and shadow. I should go to bed, I know. I should rest. But I am not ready yet. I want to sit here a little longer, to hold on to this feeling, this sense of connection and peace and profound gratitude. Outside, the world is silent and still, blanketed in snow that glows in the moonlight. The stars are bright, so bright they seem close enough to touch. I can see the Big Dipper, the North Star, Orion's Belt, all the constellations I learned as a child and taught to my own children. The sky is vast and infinite, and I feel small beneath it, but not insignificant. I feel like a part of it, a tiny but essential piece of the great cosmic puzzle. I think about all the people throughout history who have looked up at these same stars, who have wondered about life and death and what comes after. I think about how lucky I am to know, to have been given this gift of certainty, this proof that love never dies. Not everyone gets this. Not every family has this secret, this miracle. We are blessed beyond measure, and I have never taken that for granted, not for a single day. The clock in the hallway chimes once, marking 1:30 in the morning. Christmas Day has officially begun. In a few hours, the sun will rise, and the house will fill with noise and activity again. There will be presents to open and breakfast to cook and phone calls to make to family members who could not be here. There will be laughter and chaos and the beautiful mess of a family Christmas. But for now, in this quiet moment, I sit alone with my thoughts and my memories and my gratitude. I think about my life, about all the joys and sorrows, the triumphs and failures, the moments of grace and the moments of struggle. I think about the people I have loved and the people who have loved me. I think about the choices I have made and the paths I have taken and the person I have become. And I realize that I have no regrets. Oh, there are things I would do differently if I could, mistakes I wish I had not made, words I wish I had said or not said. But overall, when I look back at my life, I see a tapestry woven with threads of love and connection and purpose. I see a life well lived, a life that mattered, a life that made a difference to the people around me. I have been a good daughter, a good sister, a good wife, a good mother, a good grandmother. I have loved deeply and been loved in return. I have kept the secret and passed it on. I have honored my ancestors and prepared the way for my descendants. I have done what I was meant to do. And when my time comes, when I take my last breath and close my eyes for the final time, I will do so with peace in my heart. I will cross over to that other place, that place of golden light and eternal love, and I will be welcomed by all those who have gone before me. My parents will be there, and my grandparents, and all the generations stretching back through time. They will embrace me and tell me I did well, and I will finally, fully understand what it means to be home. And then, when Christmas Eve comes around again, I will return. I will step through the veil between worlds and appear in the golden light, solid and real and full of joy. I will see my children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and I will hold them and tell them I love them and remind them that they are never alone. I will be part of the miracle, part of the magic, part of the secret that has sustained our family for generations beyond counting. This is the promise. This is the hope. This is the truth that makes everything else bearable. We are not alone. We are never alone. We are surrounded by love, visible and invisible, present and past and future, all woven together into one eternal now. I close my eyes and let the peace wash over me. I can still feel the warmth of my father's hug, the softness of my mother's kiss, the strength of my grandmother's hand in mine. They are gone, but they are not gone. They are here, always here, in my heart and in my memory and in the very air I breathe. And one day, I will be here in the same way for my children and their children and their children's children. This is our secret. This is our gift. This is what it means to be part of this family. The embers in the fireplace have gone dark now, and the room is cold. I pull the blanket tighter around my shoulders and allow myself to drift, not quite sleeping but not quite awake, suspended in that liminal space between consciousness and dreams. I am aware of the house around me, the familiar creaks and sighs, the sense of history and love embedded in every board and beam. This house has seen so much, held so many memories, witnessed so many midnights when the impossible became possible. I hope it stands for many more years. I hope my grandchildren's grandchildren will gather here on Christmas Eve, will wait for midnight, will see the golden light and meet their ancestors. I hope the tradition continues, the secret is kept, the gift is passed on. But even if the house falls down, even if the family scatters to the far corners of the earth, I believe the magic will continue. Because it is not about the place. It is about the love. And love can exist anywhere, can bridge any distance, can overcome any obstacle. I hear footsteps on the stairs, soft and careful, trying not to wake anyone. A moment later, my granddaughter appears in the doorway, wrapped in a blanket, her hair tousled from sleep or the lack of it. "Grandma?" She whispers. "Are you okay? Do you need anything?" I smile at her, this beautiful girl who carries my blood and my legacy, who will one day tell her own children and grandchildren the secret on Christmas Eve. "I am fine, sweetheart," I tell her. "Just sitting here, thinking. Remembering." She comes and sits on the floor beside my chair, leaning her head against my knee the way she used to when she was small. I stroke her hair, feeling the silky texture beneath my fingers, and we sit together in comfortable silence. "It was real, wasn't it?" she says after a while, her voice small and wondering. "It really happened. They were really here." "Yes," I tell her. "It was real. They were really here. And they will be here again next year, and the year after that, and every year for as long as you live. This is our gift, our blessing. Never forget it. Never take it for granted." "I won't," she promises. "I could never forget this. Never." We sit together as the night slowly gives way to dawn. Through the window, I can see the sky beginning to lighten, the stars fading one by one as the sun prepares to rise. It is Christmas morning, a new day, a new beginning. And yet it is also a continuation, a link in the chain that stretches back through time and forward into the future. My granddaughter falls asleep there on the floor, her head still resting against my knee, her breathing deep and even. I do not move, do not want to disturb her. I simply sit and watch the dawn break, watch the world transform from darkness to light, from night to day. The snow outside catches the first rays of sun and sparkles like diamonds scattered across the earth. The icicles hanging from the eaves glow within her fire. Everything is beautiful, everything is new, everything is full of promise. This is Christmas. Not the presents or the decorations or the elaborate meals, though those are lovely. Not the songs or the stories or the traditions, though those are important. Christmas is this. This moment of connection, of love made visible, of the eternal breaking through into the temporal. Christmas is the reminder that we are more than flesh and blood, more than our individual lives, more than the sum of our days. We are part of something vast and beautiful and unending. I think about the first Christmas, the one the whole celebration is based on, the story of a baby born in a stable, of shepherds and angels and a star shining bright in the eastern sky. I think about the message at the heart of that story, the promise of hope and redemption and love conquering all. And I realize that our family's secret is not so different from that ancient story. Both are about the divine breaking into the human world, about the impossible becoming possible, about love being stronger than death. Maybe that is why the magic happens on Christmas Eve. Maybe that is why this particular night is when the veil grows thin and our loved ones can return. Because Christmas is already a time of miracles, already a celebration of the extraordinary, already a moment when we are primed to believe in things beyond our understanding. Or maybe it is simpler than that. Maybe it is just that Christmas is when families gather, when we make the effort to come together no matter how far apart we have drifted during the year. Maybe the magic happens because we create the space for it, because we open our hearts and our homes and invite love in. Maybe the ancestors return because we remember them, because we honor them, because we make room for them at our table and in our lives. I do not know the answer. I do not think anyone does. But I do know that it works, that it is real, that it has sustained our family through wars and depressions and personal tragedies that might have broken us otherwise. I know that it has given us hope in dark times and joy in good times and a sense of continuity that makes even death seem less final, less frightening. The sun is fully up now, and I can hear stirring from upstairs, the sounds of people waking, of a new day beginning. Soon the house will be full of noise and activity, of children running down the stairs to see what Santa brought, of adults making coffee and starting breakfast. Soon the magic of the quiet night will give way to the chaos of Christmas morning, and that is as it should be. Life is for the living, and we must embrace it fully, joyfully, gratefully. But I will carry this night with me, as I have carried every Christmas Eve for all these years. I will hold it in my heart like a precious jewel, taking it out and examining it when I need comfort or strength or a reminder of what truly matters. And next year, when Christmas Eve comes around again, I will be here, waiting for midnight, ready to welcome my loved ones back for one more precious hour. My granddaughter stirs and opens her eyes, blinking in the bright morning light. She looks up at me and smiles, and in that smile, I see echoes of my grandmother, my mother, myself. I see the continuation of our line, the passing of the torch, the promise that the secret will live on. "Merry Christmas, Grandma," she says, and her voice is full of love and wonder and the kind of joy that only comes from having experienced something truly magical. "Merry Christmas, my darling," I reply, stroking her hair one more time. "Merry Christmas." She gets up and stretches, then leans down to kiss my cheek before heading toward the kitchen, drawn by the smell of coffee that someone has started brewing. I sit for a moment longer, alone again, savoring the quiet before the storm of Christmas morning descends. And then I stand, my joints protesting, my body reminding me of my age, and I fold the blanket and drape it over the arm of the chair. I walk to the window and look out at the snow-covered world, at the houses with their Christmas lights still twinkling, at the church steeple rising above the trees, at the endless blue sky stretching out forever. It is a beautiful day. It is a beautiful life. And I am grateful, so deeply grateful, for every moment of it, for every person who has touched my life, for every love I have known and will know again. I am grateful for the secret, for the gift, for the magic that has made my family who we are. I turn away from the window and walk toward the kitchen, toward the sounds of my family waking and gathering, toward the warmth and light and love that fill this house. I walk toward life, toward the present moment, toward all the Christmases yet to come. And as I walk, I carry with me the memory of last night, the feeling of my father's arms around me, the sound of my mother's voice, the certainty that love never dies. This is our secret. This is our gift. This is what we share on Christmas Eve, and why it changes everything. Because once you have seen and felt and experienced the truth that love is eternal, you cannot unknow it. You cannot go back to seeing the world the way you did before. You are changed, transformed, made new. You live differently, love differently, face death differently. You understand that every goodbye is temporary, that every loss is softened by the promise of reunion, that we are all connected by bonds that cannot be broken by time or distance or even death itself. This is what my grandmother gave me that first Christmas Eve when I was 8 years old. This is what I have given to my children and grandchildren. This is what they will give to their children and grandchildren, on and on through the generations, a gift that never diminishes, never fades, never loses its power to transform and heal and inspire. And this is what I want to share with you, whoever you are, wherever you are, reading or hearing this story. You may not have the same magic in your family. You may not see your loved ones return at midnight on Christmas Eve. But the truth at the heart of our secret is universal, available to everyone who opens their heart to receive it. Love never dies. The people we love, the people who love us, they are never truly gone. They live on in our memories, in our hearts, in the lessons they taught us and the love they gave us. They live on in the way we treat others, in the choices we make, in the values we hold dear. They live on in our children and grandchildren, in the stories we tell and the traditions we keep. And maybe, just maybe, they live on in ways we cannot see or understand, in dimensions beyond our perception, waiting for us, watching over us, loving us still. Maybe death is not an ending but a transformation, not a wall but a door. Maybe we will see them again, in this life or the next, in dreams or visions or moments of grace when the veil grows thin and we catch a glimpse of something beyond. I do not know what you believe about life and death and what comes after. I do not know what your faith tells you or what your experience has taught you. But I know what I believe, what I know to be true because I have lived it, experienced it, been transformed by it. Love is eternal. Family is forever. And those we have loved and lost are never truly gone. This is the secret our family shared on Christmas Eve. This is why it changed everything. And this is the gift I offer to you, in the hope that it will change something for you too, that it will bring you comfort or hope or a new way of seeing the world. As I enter the kitchen, I am greeted by a chorus of Merry Christmas from my family. My daughter is making pancakes, my son-in-law is pouring orange juice, my grandchildren are arguing good-naturedly about who gets to open presents first. The room is warm and bright and full of life, and I feel my heart swell with love for all of them, for this beautiful, chaotic, imperfect, perfect family that is mine. I join them, accepting a cup of coffee and a kiss on the cheek from my daughter, settling into my chair at the head of the table where I have sat for so many years. And as I look around at their faces, at the love and joy and connection that binds us together, I think about all the faces that were here last night, all the generations that came before and will come after, all the love that has been poured into this family like water into a well, deep and pure and life-giving. We are blessed. We are so blessed. And I will never, ever take that for granted. The day unfolds in the way Christmas days do, with presents and laughter and too much food and moments of quiet joy interspersed with moments of happy chaos. We play games and tell stories and take pictures that will be added to the albums that document our family history. We call relatives who could not be here and wish them Merry Christmas and promise to see them soon. We nap and snack and watch old movies and simply enjoy being together. And through it all, I carry the memory of last night like a warm glow in my chest. I catch my daughter's eye across the room and see that she feels it too, that sense of having been touched by something sacred, something eternal. I see my granddaughter watching the younger children with a new awareness, a new understanding of what it means to be part of this family. I see the way my son-in-law,
who married into our family and learned the secret on his first Christmas Eve with us, holds my daughter's hand and looks at her with such love and gratitude. We are changed by what we experienced. We are always changed. And that change ripples out into the world, affecting how we live, how we love, how we treat others. Because when you know that love is eternal, when you have proof that death is not the end, you cannot help but live differently. You cannot help but be kinder, more patient, more forgiving. You cannot help but cherish every moment, every person, every opportunity to love and be loved. This is the real gift, the real magic. Not just the hour at midnight when our ancestors return, as miraculous as that is, but the way that hour transforms the other 8,759 hours of the year. The way it infuses every day with meaning and purpose and hope. The way it reminds us, again and again, that we are part of something bigger than ourselves, something that will outlast our individual lives and continue on through the generations. As evening approaches and family members begin to gather their things and prepare to leave, there are hugs and kisses and promises to see each other soon. The children are tired and cranky, overstimulated and overwhelmed by the excitement of the day. The adults are tired too, but it is a good tired, the kind that comes from a day well spent, from time well used, from love freely given and received. I stand at the door and wave goodbye as they drive away, their taillights disappearing into the winter darkness. The house feels empty and quiet after all the noise and activity, but it is not a lonely emptiness. It is a peaceful one, the kind that comes after a job well done, after a celebration completed, after love has been shared and honored and celebrated. I walk through the house, turning off lights, straightening cushions, picking up stray wrapping paper and forgotten toys. I pause in the living room, looking at the Christmas tree with its twinkling lights and beautiful ornaments, at the nativity scene that Emma arranged so carefully all those years ago and that has been set up in the same spot every year since. I look at the photographs on the mantelpiece, at the faces of those I love, both living and dead, all of them precious, all of them part of my story. And I feel at peace. I feel complete. I feel grateful beyond words for this life I have been given, for this family I have been blessed to be part of, for this secret that has sustained us through joy and sorrow, through life and death, through all the years that have passed and all the years yet to come. Tomorrow, life will return to normal. The decorations will come down, the routines will resume, the ordinary days will stretch out before us. But we will not be the same. We never are after Christmas Eve. We carry the magic with us, the memory of that golden light and those beloved faces, the certainty that love never dies and we are never alone. This is our secret. This is our gift. This is what we share on Christmas Eve, and why it changes everything. And now, I have shared it with you. Not the magic itself, perhaps, but the truth at its heart. The reminder that love is eternal, that family is forever, that those we have loved and lost are never truly gone. The invitation to live with hope and purpose and gratitude, to cherish every moment and every person, to believe in things beyond our understanding. Take it with you, this story, this truth, this gift. Let it change you, even if just a little. Let it remind you that you are part of something bigger, something eternal, something beautiful. Let it give you hope when you are struggling, comfort when you are grieving, joy when you are celebrating. And if you have lost someone you love, if you are missing them this Christmas or any day, remember this. They are not gone. They live on in you, in your memories and your heart and the way you move through the world. They live on in the love they gave you and the lessons they taught you and the person you have become because of them. And maybe, just maybe, they are closer than you think, watching over you, loving you still, waiting for the day when you will be reunited. This is what I believe. This is what I know. This is the secret our family shared on Christmas Eve, and why it changed everything. I turn off the last light and climb the stairs to my bedroom, my body aching but my heart full. I change into my nightgown and slip between the cool sheets, pulling the blankets up to my chin. Through the window, I can see the stars shining bright in the clear winter sky, the same stars that have watched over countless generations of my family, the same stars that will watch over countless generations to come. I close my eyes and let sleep begin to claim me, drifting on the edge of dreams. And in that liminal space between waking and sleeping, I feel them around me, all those I have loved and lost. I feel my mother's hand stroking my hair, my father's kiss on my forehead, my grandmother's voice humming a lullaby. I feel surrounded by love, held by love, sustained by love. And I know, with a certainty that goes beyond logic or reason, that I am never alone. That I am part of an unbroken chain of love that stretches back through time and forward into eternity. That when my time comes to cross over, I will be welcomed with open arms by all those who have gone before me. And that one day, I will return on Christmas Eve to visit those I love, to remind them that love never dies, that family is forever, that we are all connected by bonds that cannot be broken. This is the promise. This is the hope. This is the truth that has sustained my family for generations beyond counting, and that will sustain us for generations yet to come. This is the secret we shared on Christmas Eve. And this is why it changed everything. Sleep claims me fully now, pulling me down into dreams where the golden light still glows and beloved faces smile at me with infinite love. And as I sleep, the house settles around me, the old wood creaking and sighing, the Christmas tree lights casting gentle shadows on the walls, the snow outside reflecting the starlight and making everything glow with a soft, ethereal radiance. It is Christmas night, and all is well. All is peaceful. All is full of love and hope and the promise of tomorrow. And somewhere, in that place beyond, my ancestors are smiling, knowing that the secret has been kept, the gift has been passed on, the tradition will continue. Knowing that love has triumphed once again, as it always does, as it always will. Forever and ever, world without end.